Hello, everyone. Last time we were reviewing introductions and the theme of emergent properties. This time we are going to start at looking at the cells, how it is the basic unit of biology. But to reiterate, the last thing we were talking about was structure and function. So you guys can see that in this image, there is a hummingbird and probably a honeysuckle flower. And so it just goes to reiterate the idea that structure and function go hand in hand, and that structure influences function. So the structure of this honeysuckle has affected the structure of the hummingbird's beak. It's evolved to be long and slender, and it's able to reach inside to the bottom of those flowers. So the structure then has affected the function of the hummingbird and its ability to be able to obtain and reach these flowers. So that theme of biology, how structure and function go hand in hand, is very important. So the next part of the next theme that we want to cover is the cell. The cell is the most basic structure in biology. The cell is the smallest unit of organization, and it's able to perform all of the activities that are required for life. The cell theory states that all living organisms are made from cells. Cells are the smallest thing. Every organism is made of cells or is a cell. Life can range from single-celled organisms all the way to huge, gigantic, multicellular organisms like the blue whale, for example. Every cell is enclosed by a membrane that regulates um, the components that are inside of that cell. What makes cells unique and what makes them living is that they're able to influence their metabolism. They're able to control the chemical reactions that are occurring inside of the cell. So there are different kinds of cells. The cells of bacteria and archaea are prokaryotic, while all other forms of life are composed of what we call eukaryotic cells. So let's go over what those means. Let me do prokaryotic first. Prokaryotic, the word prokaryotic, pro means before, and karyotic means to have a nucleus. So prokaryotic cells are cells that evolved before they had a nucleus. So prokaryotic cells are usually smaller, they do not have a nucleus, and they usually do not have organelles. Prokaryotic cells are smaller, and they're able to do a lot of things a little bit faster compared to their bigger cousins, the eukaryotic cells. Um, for the most part, when we're talking about prokaryotic cells, we're talking about bacteria. Eukaryotic cells, U means true, karyotic means nucleus. So these are the true nucleus cells, and they have a membrane that encloses them, their organelles, the largest of which is usually the nucleus. So eukaryotic cells have compartments called organelles, and they have a large nucleus. And so on this image here, they're showing you the difference between a eukaryotic cell and a prokaryotic cell. And immediately, the first thing you should notice is that that eukaryotic cell is considered a giant compared to prokaryotic cells. Another thing you should notice is the great big purple blob there in the middle. That is the nucleus of the eukaryotic cell. And then within that eukaryotic cell, there are many membrane enclosed organelles that are all doing different things, different structures that undergo different functions. Where the prokaryotic cell is smaller, it has DNA, um, but it's more restricted in its ability to do things internally because it doesn't have enclosed organelles. So the ability to undergo chemical reactions, the ability to do um, chemical processes involves the expression and transmission of the genetic material. So all cells contain some sort of genetic material. Um, Most genetic material for life on the planet starts in the form of DNA, which is deoxyribonucleic acid. So, for example, in this image, we have a cell on the left, um, and it is being color coded where the red represents the cellular body, the form, the microfibrils that make up that cell. The blue represents the DNA, and the green is what they call the spindle fibers that pull apart DNA. So this is showing you that this cell is undergoing cell division. It's dividing into two. And so when you get to the right side image, the cell is dividing into two. There's two different cells there that are forming. And the whole purpose of this is to show that genetic material is passed from parent to offspring. It is the heritable material that is allows for life to be able to do everything that it is able to do. Each chromosome contains one long DNA molecule that has thousands of genes. Genes are the units of inheritance. So you guys know what genes are. We've probably people have said it throughout your lives. Oh, it's in your genes. So your DNA encodes information that carries the directions to build the molecules that literally create and compose your cells and your body. The genetic information encoded by DNA directs the development of an organism. So you guys did probably learn when you were talking about cells that DNA is the brain. The nucleus is the brain of the cell, where it directs all of the cellular reactions that occur within that cell. And so, once again, remember that DNA is inheritable. So that means that you inherited half your DNA from your mother, half from your father, half were in the egg cell, half were in a sperm cell. And so when they fuse together during fertilization, you now have a embryo that has its DNA from both parents that would develop into a offspring that is similar to the parents, but genetically different. So the structure of DNA accounts for its ability to store information. Each DNA molecule is made up of two long chains arranged in the double helix. So DNA molecules are always called a double helix molecule. The chain is made up of four different kinds of building blocks. We call those nucleotides. And you guys probably learned them as A, T, C, and G. We're going to come back to these later on in the semester when we get to the chapters on DNA, replication, transcription, and translation. But for right now, just realize that DNA is a molecule made up of nucleotides. And so here are some models of what DNA can look like. There's the double helix model, and this in particularly is what we call um, a space field model, where it shows the actual space of the molecules. And then you have your single strand of DNA model where it shows you one side of the DNA molecule and it shows you the letters of the nucleotides. So many of the genes that are in your body, they provide the blueprint or the recipe that will be used to create the molecules that are in your cells. And those molecules themselves can are used to also create new cells. So DNA is able to, it carries all the information that is needed to create all of the components that are needed for growth and development. Gene expression is the process of converting the information from a gene to a cellular process product. So being able, for example, um, you can have carry the gene to create insulin. Your body needs insulin to lower your blood sugar. And then the DNA carries the information that is needed for you to be able to create the protein, the insulin protein that is used to do that cellular process. Um, the next theme that we're going to cover is that life requires the transfer and transformation of energy and matter. So, all life on the planet, all of the energy that is necessary for life to be able to do all of the things that are necessary for living, the consumption of energy, the consumption of energy that then is transferred into different matter. All of that energy originally derives from the sun. So without the sun, the planet would be a less hospitable place, at least for life. So the producers are organisms that are able to convert energy from the sun into energy for itself that is able to be used by that organism. And then we all know of producers as being like plants, and there's other photosynthetic organisms, for example, algae. There's actually some bacteria that is also producers. So they are also able to convert sunlight into energy. And they do that by creating chemical energy. So just think of it this way. Next time you're eating a strawberry, just remember that the plant converted sunlight into energy that was able, and it stored that energy and it was able to grow it into a strawberry. And so that makes us consumers. Consumers are organisms that are they were are they have to feed on other organisms to obtain energy. And there's many different kinds of consumers. For example, you can be a direct consumer, like humans are. We're direct consumers. We directly consume the organisms that we need to obtain energy. Or you could be a different kind of consumer, for example, like fungi, where you can dissolve dead or organic material and still obtain the energy that you need. But you still have to consume something to obtain energy. You're not a producer. And so here, this is just a diagram showing you the chemical flow or energy flow and chemical cycling that occurs in an environment. So sunlight is converted by the plants into energy. Plants will use that energy to do all their metabolic, uh, to fuel their metabolic functions and to grow as a organism. So plants will grow. And then of course, there are things that will feed off those plants. Caterpillar here will eat the plant, and then something else will eat the caterpillar, and then, but eventually, as things die or waste is produced, it is put back into the soil where it can be reused by plants to grow. Now, energy will flow through the environment this way, but a lot of energy is lost in the form of heat. So heat loss is actually one of the biggest problems that organisms have with energy conversion. Once energy has been converted to heat, it's almost never converted to another form of energy. And so it's just lost. And a lot of organisms are not able to use heat to gain energy. Um, yeah. Uh, Most of life on the planet has evolved to use um, either sunlight or consumption of energy. When in the next video, we will talk about interactions um, within systems.